Hi everybody, welcome back to my channel. And as you've seen from the pictures, today's tutorial is going to be the hooded scarf. So there's a couple of things we're going to need. I used 2 skeins of Lion Brand's Pound of Love in the color taupe, I believe, if I can see it. There it is. In the color taupe. This is what I have left of the second skein. It's pretty much full. I think I needed it to do I needed it to make both of the pockets and to finish up the top of my hood. So you don't need much. I'd say in total you're probably going to need 1,020 yards plus, I don't know, maybe about another 300 yards. So about 1,320 yards, 1,420 of your main color. And like I said, I used this. Now for the popcorn stitches, I used I just used Mainstays basic yarn, and this is the color burgundy. Now, like you can tell, I didn't use much of this one either. You're gonna need several stitch markers, or you can just, use a piece of scrap yarn, doesn't matter. A 6mm hook, scissors, and a yarn needle, and a tape measure. Now, this is what I use. You don't have to, but I use this stitch counter, or I call it a row counter because that's what I use it for. Or you could just use a piece of paper and a pen, but what you're going to need it for is to keep track of where we are in the pattern for the scarf, because it's easy to get confused on what row we're working on, and I just like to write it down. But anyway, let's see. I'm pretty sure that's it. So get your stuff together and let's get started. Okay, so I've got a chain of 34, and for row 1, we're just going to start with a double crochet in the 4th chain from hook. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So we're going to double crochet right in there. And now we're just going to double crochet in each chain across. So I'm going to go ahead and finish this off camera, and I'll be right back, and that'll be the end of round 1. Okay, so I've double crocheted across. I've got 2 more chains to work into. 1 and 2. Okay, so you should have 31 double crochet and then our little turning chain here at the end. So now we're going to start row 2. I'm going to go ahead and write this down. So if you guys need to rewind at any point and come back, you just got to look for the number in the corner for what row we're on. Okay, so for row 2, we're going to chain 1 and turn. And we're going to half double crochet in that first double. A half double. Just like that. And now we're going to front post around the next 3. So if you're looking at it, like this, see how our half double is right there? We know that's not what we want to work around. We want to work around the next 1, 2, 3 double crochet. So we yarn over, go in from behind, bring it to the front, and just work our double like normal. Go in from behind, 2, and 3. Give me some slack. So we have our half double and our 3 doubles. Now, I'm going to leave this completely up to you guys. I know for some it's going to help out a lot. Oh, I don't have them anywhere next to me. Hold on just a second. Okay, so what I was saying, if you take a stitch marker, it's going to help. Some of you may not need it, some of you do. It's just a simple little step. So you can either use a stitch marker or just an extra strand of yarn, whatever you got. And I'm going to mark that half double. You'll see why in round 3 when we come back. But anyhow, okay, so we have our half double, our 3 front. Now we're going to work 3 back. By 3 back, I mean 3 back post. So we're going to yarn over. We can see where our last front post was. So we're going to come in from the back for the back post. Come in from the back, and we're just going to push that next one to the back and work right around it. Oops. I think I forgot to yarn over. Yarn over. And it does help me anyway if I hold it sideways, and it'll go right through there. So finish our double. See how it pulls it to the back? So yarn over, go from the back and around the next one. Yarn over, come into from the back. So there's our 3 front and 3 back. And that's the pattern for the rest till the end. Is 3 to the front, 3 to the back, 3 to the front, 1, 2, and 3. 3 to the back. I hold mine sideways, and this gets easier the longer the scarf gets. 2 and 3. 3 to the front. Ah. 2 and 3. So go ahead and finish that till you guys get to your end. Working 3 to the front, 3 to the back, 3 to the front, 3 to the back, front, 3 to the back, 3 to the front. And I'll meet you guys back here at the end. Okay, so I'm coming up to the end. I worked 3 to the front. I have 3 double crochets and that turning chain left. So now I have my 3 to the front, so now we work 3 to the back. 1, 2, and 3 around that last double. And now what we're going to do is we're going to work our half double right into the top of that chain. So if you look, right here is the top of that last double we worked around, and right here, this one right here, is our chain. So I'm just going to let that lay the way it always does. I'm going to come in from behind, go right straight through it, and work a half double. So now I'm going to go ahead, and like I said, you guys don't have to do this, but for some I know it's going to help a lot, because it does get, after you get working this so you know, working around your round so far in, it gets a little confusing remembering where that half double is, or accidentally working around it. And just a way to help you guys out is to just mark it. Okay, so that is the end of row 2. Now we're going to go to row 3. So we're going to chain 1, we're going to turn, go ahead and take that out. and we're going to work a half double right straight back in there. Mark it again. Okay, so now for row 3, we're going to front post double crochet around the next 2 stitches. So we're not working into this one. Here's our half double, right? My thumb's covering it up. So we're going to front post around the next 2. So yarn over, go in. There's 1 and 2. And now the way this pattern works is we're going to stick with the sets of 3 front and 3 back, 3 front and 3 back, but what determines what that order is the way the row starts. So for instance, row 3, we started with 2 front posts. So now we're going to work, we're just going to jump right into our sets of 3 we just did the 2 front, so now we're going to do 3 back. And we're just going to start that set of 3 for the rest of the way across the scarf. So there's 2 and 3. So basically what makes the design is how we start each row, and it's going to offset it, like on this side of the scarf it's going to offset it by 1 this way, so everything's going to go this way, and then on this side we're offsetting it by 1, so it's going to go the other direction. So we started with 2 front posts, and now we're going to go right into our sets of 3, and since we started with the front post, then we go into the back post. So 3 back posts, 3 front posts, 3 back posts, 3 front posts. And what you're going to notice is it's not going to line up perfectly, which we don't want that. It's going to be offset by 1. Okay, so we worked our 3 back. Now see how our next stitch is that back post? We're always going to be offset by 1. On one side of the scarf, it's going to be in one direction that we're off by 1, and on the other side of the scarf, it's going to be the other direction we're off by 1. It'll make sense the farther we get. Okay, so I'm just starting my sets of 3. There's my 3 back, 3 front, and 3. Now we start our 3 back, 1, 2, and 3. You see how it's still off by 1. And what I mean by that is if we weren't doing, you know, the diagonal slant in it, it would line up, right? We'd have 3 back posts on the 3 back posts and 3 front posts on the 3 front posts. So what I mean by it's off by 1 is you can see I just worked my 3 back posts, but I still have that 1 back post right here. That's what I mean by it's off by 1. I hope that makes sense. It's hard to explain. Okay, so I did my 3 back. Now I'm to my 3 front. Two and, oh wait, yeah, I went 1 too far. Okay, so there's 3 front. See how I'm off by 1 right here? That's what we want. So now I'm starting the 3 back, 1, 2, and 3, 3 front, 1, 2, 3, 3 back, 1, 2, 3, if I set it like this, you can kind of see how it's already going to start going that way, right? I'm just going to go ahead and finish this row with you guys. Okay, I did my 3 back, so now I'm to my 3 front. 1, 2, 3, 3 back, 1, 2, and 3. Okay, so now we've got, wiggle it around and you can see we've got 1 more stitch left, then our half double, right? So to end round 3, we work 1 front post. And now we're going to half double in our half double that we had marked. And that is the end of row 3. And the reason why it's starting and ending different is because we're creating a new hold it like that, a new set of front posts, and so it's going to start a new diagonal wave. All right. Okay, so for row 4, we're going to chain 1 and turn, half double right back into the top of the last half double that we did right there. I'm going to go ahead and mark it. Erase that. Now we're on row 4. Trying to get this marker off my hand. Okay, so now we're on row 4. So row 4, we started with our half double, and now what we're going to do is work a back post around the next 2. So I'm going to take my thumb here and I'm going to hide these half doubles we've been working. So you see a back post right there, right here, and then 3 front, and then so on, right? So to start row 4, we're going to back post into the next 2. So I'm just going to yarn over, go in from the back, and bring it through, and there's my back post. And now I'm going to go around to the next one. Now, like how I was talking about earlier, this whole scarf is based on the sets of 3 back, 3 front. Well, now that on row 4, since we started with 2 back posts, we start our sets of 3 with the front post. So we worked into this one and this one. So now our 3 front posts start in the next one. So 1, 2, sorry guys, I had a visitor right in the middle of doing that. Okay, so we worked our half double, our 2 back, and now we're straight into our sets of 3s, which on row 4, up there, since we started with the 2 back, we start with the 3 front posts, and then now we go into the 3 back posts. Pull it apart if you're having a little trouble figuring out which one you need to go into. Oh, excuse me. 1, 2, and 3. Now we just go straight into our 3 front posts. Now I want to stop for a second and show you what I mean. Earlier when I said on this side we're offset by 1 going this direction. Now on this side, see how we've worked into 1 of our set of 3? Instead of having 1 left, we work into 1 and then have 2 left, so we're going this way. So you guys go ahead and keep working with your sets of 3 repeats. So right now we did start from the beginning, our half double. We start row 4 with 2 back posts, and then we go straight into our sets of 3, which on this row happen to be front posts. So we got 3 front, 3 back, 3 front, 3 back, 3 front, 3 back. Go all the way, and I'll meet you guys down here at the end. Okay, I'm back, and I've worked my set of 3 across for row 4, and I have my half double, and if you look, there's 1 more stitch in there, which is a back post. So to end row 4, we're going to work 1 back post, because here's the last set of 3 we did was front post, so we work 1 back post to finish row 4. And then we're just going to half double crochet in our very last stitch. I need to get me some slack. And that's the end of row 4. So I'm going to chain 1 and turn. Change this to 5. Get me some slack real quick. Okay, so for row 5, chain 1 and turn, and we're going to work the half double crochet into our half double from the previous row. Go ahead and mark it. Okay, so now to start row 5, we're just going to start like with just our normal sets of 3. We're going to start with 3 back post, 1, 2, and 3, and straight into the 3 front post. 1, 2, and 3. And that's what we're going to do for all of row 5, sorry. 1, 2, 3, 3 to the back, or I mean front. 1, 2, 3. See if I can lay this like, if I hold it like this, it's kind of hard to see it, but if I just turn it a little bit, you guys can see how it's angling. It's going to be diagonal. So go ahead with round 5 and keep repeating your 3 front, 3 back, 3 front, 3 back, and I'll meet you guys at this end. Okay, I'm coming up to the end, and I just kept with my 3 front, 3 back, 3 front, 3 back, and I'm almost to the end, and I just did my 3 back, and I'm going to do my 3 front, two, and here's my last 2. I got to work a front post, and here's our half double. So there's my front post and half double into that last one, and that is the end of round 5. Get rid of that and go to round 6. Okay, so for round 6, row 6, not round, chain 1 and turn, and we're going to half double crochet right back into that same stitch. And I'm going to go ahead and mark it. And now for row 6, we start with 1 front post. So we've already done our half double, which is this right here. So where does our first front post go? Right there. So we just yarn over, go in, bring it up. There's our 1 front post. Now for I keep saying round. Ugh. For row 6, we start with our first front post. We start with 1 front post. Okay, so now we just go straight into our sets of 3. So what stitch is our first set of 3? Well, since we started with that front post, it's the back post. So we go into 3 back posts. 1, 2, and 3. Now we go straight into our 3 front posts. 1, 2, 3. Now remember, I should have said this earlier, when you guys are working this and it gets a little hard to see right where you need to go, give it a tug and pull it apart, and then you can see exactly what stitches you haven't worked into and where your next one needs to go, right? So go ahead and finish this with your 3 front, 3 back, 3 front, 3 back, just back and forth, and I'll meet you guys at the end. Okay, so I'm to the end of row 6, and I've done my front, back, front, back, front, back, all the way, and I've come to the end, and I just finished my set of 3 back posts. And now I only have, because I've worked into this one, I have 2 stitches plus my half double. So for row 6, we end with 2 front post doubles. 1, oop. Well, come on, and 2. Okay, so now we half double into our last half double that we work. And that's the end of row 6. You see how the slant's going different ways? It's like well, you can't really tell if I fold it in half. But anyway, okay, so we're going to go on to row 7. I about said round again. So to end, we chain 1, we turn, and for row 7, alright, so for row 7, we're going to work our half double crochet in the half double crochet from the last row, which happens to be the very first one right here. And I'm going to go ahead and mark it. And row 7 starts with 1 back post. So we yarn over, go in, 1 back post. So now what's the next thing we do? We go straight into the our sets of 3, and on row 7, since we started with a back post, our set of 3 is going to start with 3 front posts. So the next thing we do is go right into our set of 3 front posts. 1, 2, and 3. The yarn's getting tangled. Now we go straight into our set of 3 back posts. 1, 2, and 3. Straight into our front post. 1, 2, and 3. I'm going to go ahead and stop here, and you guys can see how it's getting that slant in it. So for the repeat, let's go ahead and talk about this while I finish row 7. The repeat of this pattern is row 2 through 7. 2, 3, 3 to the front. So we're going to repeat 2 through 7 until our scarf measures roughly 66 inches. So we're always going to end on row 7 for the end of our scarf. So like if you're at round 2 and your scarf is measuring 65 inches, keep going till we get to round 7. And if it's slightly over 66, no big deal. I think, to be completely honest, I think mine is like 66 and a half. Not enough to bother anything, it don't matter. But I want your scarf to at least be 66 inches. And it also, you know, it could depend. If, you know, you have a longer torso and longer arms, maybe yours needs to be longer than 66. Okay, so there's my 3. We worked the 1 back post, 3 front, 3 back, 3 front, 3 back, 3 front, 3 back, 3 front, 3 back, 3 front. And we have 2 left, which you can't tell, but he's hiding back there. We have this one, our back post that was hidden back there, and then our half double. So for row 7 ends with 2 back posts. 1, 2, half double into our, our last one, our last stitch, which is the half double, chain 1, turn, and then you'd start row 2, half double in the first, and then start row 2, and then just keep repeating 2 through 7, 2 through 7, 2 through 7, all the way till your scarf measures 66 inches. So go ahead and get that done. Come back here and I'm going to show you how we're going to finish it off. Okay, so I've repeated rows 2 through 7 a gazillion times. And here is my scarf. I love that diagonal stripe. That is so cool. Oops, I'm sorry. Okay, so we ended on round 7. Row 7, not round. Anyhow, so we've ended on row 7, and we're measuring 66 and a half, 67 inches. That's fine. No biggie. All right, so what I'm going to do is I worked my last half double, chained 1, and I'm going to turn. And now all we're going to do just to finish this off is to work 1 double crochet in each stitch across. So I chain 1, and we're just going to double crochet right across all this. So go ahead and get your double crochets done and come back, and I'm going to show you how we're going to mark off where our hood is going to go. Okay, I'll be right back. Okay, I've double crocheted across. I got 1 more. Don't forget your little half double down here. Double crochet, chain 1, cut, and pull it out. Alright, so there's the end of the main piece of our scarf. So I'm going to get these ends weaved in, and then I'm going to get set up to show you guys how we're going to mark off where our hood is going to start. So get your ends weaved in. You're going to need a couple stitch markers, so grab those, and I'll be right back. Okay guys, so we got the scarf laid out. Now I'm going to show you what we're going to go through to get the center where we need our hood to go. So what I'm going to do, I will get you 3 stitch markers and a tape measure. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this scarf and I'm going to go completely in half with it. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a stitch marker, I'm going to take my finger, go straight up to get to just as high as center as I can get, and I'm just going to run that through there. And now I'm going to unfold it. And that should be the good center line for me to start. If you want to measure, you can. This thing is really loud. "33 inches. 33 inches. Good. So there's my center line. Okay, so now what I'm going to do, sorry I keep crossing in and out, Jalen's helping me. So I'm going to go from my center stitch marker, and I'm going to measure out from 0 to 9 inches. Right at that 9, I'm just going to run a stitch marker in there. Now I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. I'm going to set this at the 9, come over, and I'm going to mark right at that 0. Okay. So now our hood is going to start here and finish here, so we can get rid of this center one. Now if we measure from this stitch marker, we measure from here to here, I got 24 inches. Now I'm just going to set this at 24. There's my 24 to the 0. Good. And if your guys doesn't come out perfect like that, as long as it's, I mean, if you got one side off that's like let's say mine was 23.5 inches, or, you know, this side was 23.25 inch, it's fine. Because what's going to happen is we're going to put our pocket right here, hood, pocket right here. So when we put it on, we put our hand in that pocket, and we pull down. Look how much that stretches. Nobody's gonna notice if it's off a 1/2 inch, 1/4 inch, 3/4. Doesn't matter. It's fine. Okay, so we've got this marked off. Now I'm gonna give my little helper a break, and we're gonna get started on our hood. Okay, so now that we've got our hoods marked off here to here, what we're going to do, I'm going to show you like this first, just because it's a little hard to get all this on camera. What we're going to do is we're going to attach here, and we're going to work 62 double crochet evenly spaced to the next stitch marker. Okay, let me get you set up. Alright. So just so I don't lose that, see that big old gap right there? That's what we're going to go straight into. Take my marker out, get my yarn, get a slip knot, get that on my hook, pull through, chain 1, tighten that slip knot down, now I'm just going to go ahead and go in with a double. So now if you notice, working across the side, we have the big gap we start in, a chunk, gap, chunk, gap, chunk, gap. That's kind of the basis of how we're going to space these out. So we're going to work 1 into these gaps and 2 into the chunks. So I have 1 in my gap. I'm just going to go right in there with another, and I'm going to come to one side and do another, and 1 in the gap. One in the chunk. It sounds funny. Another one in the little chunk, and 1 in the gap. So keep working that until we get to our next stitch marker over here. And we're going to see if we have a good We need 62. We'll see how many we got when we get down there. Okay, so I kept with the working 2 in the space, or 1 in the space and 2 in the chunk of stitches, and I've come up with 61. So I'm going to go right into that chunk right here that the stitch marker's in, or dang it, this gap, and there's 62. There's my 62 stitches for my hood. Where'd that stitch marker? There it is. Okay. So just to be on the safe side, I want to make sure this, so the double crochet from here to here, where our hood is marked off, should measure 18 inches. I'm going to hold this in my hand because it's kind of loud. It's about 19 1/4. That's okay though. No worries. Alright. So now what we're going to do is we're going to repeat the pattern that we did for our scarf, the diagonal stripes. We're going to do the same thing on our hood. So we chain 1 and we're going to turn. And just like our scarf, we're going to start with 1/2 double. Or I'm sorry, for the hood, we're going to actually do a double instead of a 1/2 double in that first stitch. So if you need to, go ahead and mark it just like we did. Look at my pattern again. So we're going to start with 3 front posts. So 1, 2, and 3. Now 3 back post. 1, 2, and 3. And we're just going to keep going all the way across, and I'll meet you guys right here. Alrighty, I've made it to the end. I have 3 back posts, 1 more stitch, which for our hood, remember, we're not going to do a 1/2, we're going to do a double. And the reason for that is because this 1/2 double on the ends of our scarf is a pretty firm, pretty firm stitch. It's not going to give a lot of flop. But in the hat, I don't want it to be so stiff along the edges. So we're going to do a double instead of a 1/2 double. So what I want you guys to do for your hood, just keep repeating rows 2 through 7, just like we did on the scarf. If you need to rewind, remember on the whiteboard I have it marked in the corner for you guys so you can see what row it is. But we're going to repeat that and rows 2 through 7 on our hood, and I will be back and I will tell you guys how many rows I did to get my hood. Okay guys, I'm back and I've worked rows 2 through 7 until my hood measures 14 inches, roughly 14, it might be a little over. But I stopped on row 7, so I did 2 through 7, 2 through 7, 2 through 7, kept doing those rows until it's measured almost 14 inches. So what you're going to do now is at the end, let me get my camera set up. We're going to chain 1, and all we're going to do, fold this, we're going to take this top edge and we're going to slip stitch it shut. Let me make sure you guys can see what I'm doing. So here's the body of my scarf, right here, and we worked our hood up, and now I'm just going to slip stitch across here, and then we're going to flip it inside out. So do the chain 1. I gotta maneuver around a little bit. Okay, so now I'm just gonna slip stitch, stitch for stitch across the top. I'm gonna go right into that stitch, right into the first one, and just work slip stitches all the way down. So go ahead and work the slip stitch, stitch for stitch, all the way, and I'll meet you back down here. Okay, so I'm coming to the end, and I'm still going through each stitch. Now I'm just gonna go right through the pinch part right here. I'm gonna slip stitch, chain 1, pull this through, cut. Okay, now we're gonna flip it inside out, and there is our hood. Now we're not done with it because we're gonna try to get this all laid out. Oh, sorry, I bumped the camera. So we are gonna work around the part that's gonna go, you know, around our face area. We're gonna add more here. And I thought about putting a pom-pom on the back or something like that. Would be cute. Okay, but before we get started with that, we are gonna start with our pockets. So what we're gonna do, grab my yarn, we're gonna work the same pattern that we have through the whole scarf, rows 2 through 7, and we're gonna chain the exact same that we started with our scarf. So we're gonna chain 34. Okay, so we're going to start with the chain of 34, slip knot on our hook, two, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34. Okay, so with row 1, we're just going to double crochet in our 4th chain from hook and go ahead and double crochet in each chain across. So now whenever we start working our rows 2 through 7, it's going to be the same width as our scarf is. So go ahead and work your double crochet in each stitch, and I'll meet you at the end. Okay, so I've double crocheted in each chain for row 1. Now we're just going to start rows 2 through 7. So it's just like we did with the base of our scarf and our hood. I can't speak. Anyhow, so what I want you guys to do is I want you to work row 1, right, like we did here. Then work rows 2 through 7, then do another 2 through 7, and then I want you to do 2 through 4, and then stop. So do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 2 through 7 again, and then 2, 3, and 4. And when we get done with that, it's going to be roughly this size, and then we're going to add just a row of double crochet across the top. So by the time, I can't find my, oh, here it is. So when we get done, our pocket should be roughly 8 or 7.5 by 8. So when we set it on top of our scarf, it's going to be a good size. So we're gonna make 2 of those. I've already got 1 done, and this is what it's gonna look like. So like I said, we have our row 1, then work 2 through 7, 2 through 7, and then 2, 3, and 4, and then stop. And I'll meet you when we start the double crochet. Oh, and while I'm thinking about it, we're not gonna do like we did on our hood. We're gonna end each row with a double crochet, like a half double crochet like we did on the scarf. Because on the hood we did the double crochet at the end. So for the pocket we're going to do the half double like we did for the main body of our scarf. So go ahead and get started on that, and I'll be right back as soon as I get this other scarf done, or other pocket done. Okay, so I've worked my pocket here. I worked 2 through 1, row 1, 2 through 7, 2 through 7, 2 through 4. And now it should be measuring about 8 inches wide and about 7 inches long. So what we're going to do now is, all we're going to do is just work a double crochet row. Chain 1 and turn. So that was the end of row 4, and now we're just going to double crochet in each stitch. Just one double crochet in the top of each of the front and back posts, all the way across. So go ahead and work that across, and I'll meet you at the end. Okay, I'm coming up to my last couple stitches left. I have 2 left right here. 1 and 2. We're going to chain 1, pull up a loop, cut. Okay, and there's our pocket. So you should have 32 double crochet across the top. Okay, so I'm going to weave in these ends, and I will be right back. Okay guys, so I've gotten my ends weaved in. I want to make sure you guys make 2 of your pockets. So what we're going to do first, I've already got one of my pockets sewn on, so I'm going to show you. So I'm going to lay out my scarf and fold it straight in half with the hood laying like this. Flip it over so I can show you my pocket. So here's the pocket that I have sewn on. Now I wanted my pockets to go the opposite way as the rest of the I don't know, the wave, whatever you want to call it. I wanted mine to go opposite. You don't have to do that. You can have them going the same way if you want, but I just wanted to show off a little bit of the work. Okay, so I'm going to flip this back over now. Now what we're going to do is we're going to take our pocket. I'm going to go ahead and unfold this because I want the part where our head is going to go in the hood to be facing up. And if you guys can see the brown on my hand, we picked pecans yesterday and it has stained us all kinds of bad. But anyhow, okay, so have your hood open to where it's facing up. So like this is where our head's going to go in. And I'm just going to come down here and I'm going to take my pocket, and if you can see the double crochets are facing us. I want them to go right on top of the inside of our scarf, because we're going to slip stitch all around this, and then we're going to flip it inside out, and then when I flip it, see how the rows are going to be opposite. Now if you wanted yours the same, do it with the double crochet away from you, or like the back of the double crochets are up, and then when you slip stitch it close, it'd still be opposite. Yeah, I'm sorry, I got that backwards. I just told you the same thing. Slip stitch it to your scarf with a double crochet facing to you, and then whenever you flip it inside out, they'll be going the same way. It's just the double crochet will be backwards. So I'm gonna explain that again because I don't want anybody to be confused. So if you want your rows to be opposite of what they are, lay your pocket down with the double crochet, the back of that row of double crochet facing up, and then we're gonna slip stitch around, and then bless you, Jalen, and then we're gonna flip it inside out, and then that's what we want. So the rows are gonna be opposite. If you want it the same, lay it with the double crochet facing up, and then slip stitch around, and then whenever we flip it inside out, they'll be facing the right way. Clear as mud? Okay, so for mine, I want it to be opposite. So we're going to do the double crochet, the back of the double crochet going up. All right, so now we're going to get started on slip stitching this together. Okay, so we've got our pocket laid out the way we want it. And what we're going to do is we're going to get this laid out better. We're going to start here, slip stitch down, around, up, and then flip it inside out. Okay. So I'm going to slip knot on my hook. And there's not going to be any, you know, fancy way to do this. We're just going to go where we can get our hook in. Okay. So I'm going to just grab these corners and I'm just going to go in. Get that out of the way. And I'm just going to evenly space out slip stitches. Make sure you don't do them too tight. And that's all we're going to do. Is work in where we can get our hook. Make sure they look pretty. Because if we do them too tight, it's going to kind of bunch up and we don't want that. Alright, so go ahead and keep slip stitching until we get to this first corner right here. Okay, I've made it to the corner. Get close for you guys. And I'm just going where I can get my hook. And I'm going to attempt to try to work 2 in the corner just to make that a pretty turn. There we go. So I'm going to rotate everything. Now I'm just going to go stitch for stitch across the bottom. And we're just going to keep working this all the way to our next corner. So go ahead and work that across and I'll meet you at the end. Okay, I'm coming up to my corner and somebody's dog is going crazy outside. I apologize for that. But I'm just coming up to this corner and we're going to do the same thing. We're just going to work, try to work 2 slip stitches in the corner. I'm off just a tad. Okay, so now I'm to the corner. I'm just going to work 2 in the same little space. Does not want to go through. Try that again. There. Okay, so now we're going to make our turn and we're just going to come up this side now. Just like we have been. I think I can get a bunch of stitches in this corner. There, I got past it. Okay. So just wherever I can get in, I'm just going to work slip stitches. My yarn split. Okay. Okay, so go ahead and just slip stitch up the side like we have been, and I'll be right back. Okay, so I'm coming up to the very end of my pocket, and I'm just going to go right around the last stitch, chain 1, pull up a loop, and snip. So now I'm going to take my pocket and I'm going to poke those corners in and then pull it out, because I want those corners to be nice and pretty. There, it looks good. Okay, so now when we take our hood and fold our hood straight in half, our pockets should be on either side. Here's one pocket and the other pocket. And then our hood is folded in half, which, you know, the part where our head would go is on the inside. So it's laid nice and pretty in half. Our seam is to the inside. Okay, so now what we're going to do, I'm going to go ahead and weave in our ends from sewing our pockets on. I'm going to weave these ends in and then we're going to get started on a border around our hood and then down the scarf. So I'll be right back. Okay, so I've got my ends weaved in. Both of my pockets are sewn on now. So what we're going to do now is we're going to work a border around our hood. Just a simple little double crochet border around the hood, just to have a place to, to set up our popcorns we're going to work around. Okay, so our hood's folded in half, and I want the double crochets to be facing away from my face. So the back of the double crochet is going to be to the inside of the hood. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come down here where our hood and our scarf meet, and I'm just going to insert right there, get a loop on the hook, chain 1, and I'm going to work a double crochet right back in there. Now I'm going to work a double crochet right into this little cluster right there. I'm just going to go right inside there, and I'm working over my tail. Now I'm going to work a double crochet into the same place, and I'm going to jump across and come right into this little gap, work a double crochet there, and then I'm going to come over to this next little area. I'm going to go to the left of this little bar right here. I'm going to go right in there, get my tail, right into this little cluster. Right into the middle again, into the gap. We're in this little bar, in this cluster, into the cluster, into the gap, in this hole, in the cluster, right into the cluster again, and into the hole, into this little hole right there. And that's all what I'm going to do all the way around the hood. I'm going to try to have an even number of double crochets around. So I'm going to keep working like I have been all the way up, and I'll meet you whenever we get to the seam at the top of our hood. I'll be right back. Okay, so I'm coming up to the little gap. I'm going to double crochet in there. I'm going to double crochet right into the space right next to it. I think I can get one more in there. I'm just going to jump right across and go into the big gap right there. And I'm just going to start spacing out double crochets like we did at the beginning. I need to rotate. In there, into the gap, to the little gap, into the cluster, into the big gap, into the next big gap, into the little gap, cluster. Okay, so go ahead and just keep working that all the way down, and I'm going to tell you whenever we get to the starting of the scarf, I'm going to tell you how many double crochets we should have. I'll be right back. Okay, so I've worked that double crochet around, and then I counted, and I have 123, but I need it to be divisible by 4, so I'm going to go ahead and add one more in there, so I have 124. Now I'm going to chain 1, pull up a loop, and cut. Okay, so I'm going to pull that tight. I'm going to weave in my ends, and then we're going to start our popcorn. So I'll be right back. Okay, so we have our ends weaved in. Now what we're going to do is I'm going to take my burgundy here, and we're going to attach in the very first double crochet. Now I have the opening to the hood facing away from me, so when I work my popcorns, they're going to be facing out. So I'm just going to go in that first double, put the loop on my hook, pull through, chain 1. And we're going to start with our popcorn. So our popcorn has 5 double crochets. So we're going to work 5 double crochets in that first double crochet. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, I got a knot, 1 more, 4, 5. Pull up a loop. We're going to take our hook off and go right back to that first double. 1, 2, 3, 4. It's kind of bent a little. And now we're going to put the loop on our hook, pull it down, and we're going to pull the loop through the first double and chain 1. Now we're going to go into the next stitch with a slip stitch, and then to the next one, and into the next one. And now we're going to work our popcorn into the next stitch. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Pull up, go back to our first double, put the loop on, pull it down, pull the loop through the first double, and chain 1. And now slip stitch into the next 3 doubles. 1, 2, 3. And that's what we're going to repeat all the way around. 3 slip stitches, popcorn, 3 slip stitches, popcorn, all the way around. And I will meet you guys when we get back to the other side of the hood. Okay, so I've worked that around. I don't know where I set my crochet hook. I can't. Hold on, I don't know where I put my hook. Okay, I found it. So now I worked that around, and my last stitch I did the the slip stitch. So all we're gonna do is go ahead and chain 1, pull up a loop, and we're gonna weave in these ends. Now you should have 31 popcorn stitches. Now I'm going to weave in these ends and I'll be right back. Okay, I've gotten my ends weaved in, so our hood is done. Now we are going to add these popcorns to our pockets, just like this. So we started out, you should have had 32 double crochet at the top of your pocket. Well, now that we've got it sewn on, we should have roughly 30, 31, 32, and I'm only going to count the top of my doubles. I'm not counting any of this extra, or like right here where it was sewn together. So I'm going to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, and 30. And if you have less or more, it's no big deal. So I'm going to get a slip knot, and I'm going to go right in that first stitch, the first double. Get that on our hook, pull through, chain 1, and I'm going to start with the popcorn. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Go back into our first. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Put the loop back on our hook. Pull down. Pull through, chain 1. Slip stitch across the next 3, and I'm working over my tail. 1, 2, and 3. Popcorn in the next. And we're going to repeat that across the top of our pocket. So go ahead and work that, and I will meet you guys at the end. Okay, so I'm coming across. I've worked popcorn, 3 slip, and I have 2 double crochets left. So I'm going to go ahead and work another popcorn. 2, 3, 4, and 5. Come up. Pull that through, chain 1, and I'm just going to slip stitch in this last stitch. Chain 1, pull up a loop, and cut. And there we go. So I'm going to get these ends weaved in, and I'll be right back. Okay guys, now once you get your ends weaved in and you get, get both of the popcorns done on our pockets, we're done. That's it. We've finished her. Now there are a couple of things I do want to mention. This being my first hooded scarf, there was a couple of things I probably would have done different when I was designing it. Like, first of all, I would have had it to where we could do double crochet all the way down here. All the way down, but since the way we did our pockets, there's no way I could get, well, I could, but I didn't want you guys to have to struggle with that. So I'm definitely going to be doing another one, but our pockets are going to be much different. As far as the width of the scarf, I'm okay with that. The hood, I think I would have gone a little bit wider, like where we started working our pattern again, like maybe right around here or so. That way it would cover more of our face. But that is it, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you have just as much fun making this as I did. And yeah, if you guys make this, post it to my Facebook page, and all the links are in the description box. Check that out. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't. Hit the like button and leave me a comment and tell me what you guys think. I appreciate it so much. So bye for now, and I'll see you in the next one.